Welcome back for our second playthrough of Atlantic Chase from GMT Games. We're going to be playing the B3 scenario, Operation Rhine, or the Bismarck scenario. We're playing it for the second time because the first time we played it, we had a somewhat, what I would consider to be a somewhat extreme result. Great luck for the Bismarck, where she sunk 2 slow British battleships and mauled British shipping. And so we're going to roll it back and see what happens if we play it again. Because in my experience, this game can produce some pretty very diverse results depending on how things go. So we're not going to change fundamentally what we did last time, at least in the opening. I think that's a solid strategy. It also somewhat mirrors the actual historical opening, which is we're going to send the Bismarck up and around the Denmark Straits, and the main goal is to get as quickly as we can out of range of the air bases there in Scapa Flow. So we'll send him on a trajectory that looks essentially like this. Just a second while I tidy my OCD tidies this up. And having done that, the trajectory action, we will then do an engage action and attempt to bring that to battle. Now, lest I forget, we do get an intel marker on this trajectory segment because we are in a hex with what is known as an intel trigger. Station is an intel trigger. So to accomplish this, the British are going to be rolling on the interruption table to begin with. And they get a 6, which is going to give them, they have 1 intel trigger, so that is going to give them a -1 on this upcoming engage roll. Now, just to remember, that's going to be an 8. It's probably going to be a miss, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 segments in our trajectory, so that puts us on this third column. And an 8 is indeed a miss. But we do then time lapse, so we remove 3 trajectories. We are still within range of Scapa Flow. So then after an engage action, we vie for initiative. And unlike our first game, the British immediately seize the initiative back from us. So you can already see, one roll into the game, basically one activation into the game, and it's already going to take on a different tenor from the previous game. So I'm going to roll down here on the British action table and see what the British are going to do. And I'm dreading these 1 and 2 results, which are going to be airstrikes. Roll better, damn you. All right. So we've got an airstrike going out from Scapa Flow to the Bismarck's task force. And I'm going to pause for a second because we actually didn't have one of these results in the last game. So I'm just going to remind myself how this works before we execute it. Okay, first things first. I'm 6 seconds into this and I've already forgotten to roll for the weather. So before we do anything, we've got to roll for the weather for the British when the British take the initiative. The weather stays good, so we can then proceed with the airstrike. Had the weather gone bad, we would have had to, then an airstrike would not have been possible. So the origination for this is going to be Scapa Flow. I have both a carrier and an air base there. From what I can tell, it doesn't matter which one I use, so I'm not going to even bother sort of disambiguating that. And they are going to be attacking here. Now, the Germans have the ability to coordinate, provide coordinating air support from this base in Trondheim. So let's go look at what that modifier is. So we are the target player in this case, and we are in an adjacent hex. So we are going to get a -1, I put a -1 on this airstrike. All right, so there are 5 trajectories there are 5 segments in that trajectory. So that puts us on this table right here, and we have a -1 to this roll. So most of these results you'll see contact is very likely, which is going to make it a lot easier to find us and later. But most of them won't result in a hit unless one of the ships is slow, and that's not the case. Neither of my ships is slow. So, but let's see what we get here. -1 to this, so that's a 4, which is actually a miss. So the British miss with their airstrike. Now, after an airstrike, we vie for initiative. And the Germans take the initiative back. So we're kind of back on track after dodging an aircraft. All right, so the Germans are going to continue with their naval search here, this time with only 5 segments. But once again, the British are going to roll for interruption. 7 result gives them a -1 again. So our trajectory total is in the same column, the 5 to 9 column, as it was last time. So still need a pretty good result to get this. We don't. It's still a miss, but the good thing is, one second, I forgot to roll for weather again. Weather stays good. So the good thing, however, is that allows us to time lapse. So now we are out of airstrike distance from Scapa Flow. So that's going to change the tenor of things a little bit for us. Having completed that, we then move on to vying for initiative. And it changes again. So a bit of a seesaw battle here. Let's not forget to roll for the weather this time. And the weather changes to bad. So that is going to deny the British the possibility of airstrikes, just as we moved out of airstrike range. That probably doesn't matter that much. So we are going to be rolling, again, no convoys have completed. So we're going to be rolling in this column here. And we get a 6. That's a C result. So from the last game, we've been through this a number of times, but essentially we're going to pick the convoy with the fewest number of segments and attempt to complete it. Because it's not actually like in completion range. This convoy has the fewest segments. This convoy has 10 segments. This one has 11. And so they are going to simply time lapse. Now, being a bad weather turn, they roll for time lapse. And so they remove 1, 2, 3 segments on their way as they try to make their way to Gibraltar. With the British time-lapsing, initiative automatically passes back to the Germans. So for the Germans this turn, I'm going to actually change gears a little bit. You don't get any victory points for sinking cruisers. This task force here is a single cruiser. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to take a small... Well, actually, let me start by rolling for weather. So the weather turns good, which actually, for what I want to do right now, is actually a good thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually lay down a trajectory that goes after this Halifax convoy. And I think, yes, this is the segment. I want to make sure I leave that segment. So I'm going to attack them here. Now, the reason I'm doing this now is that when I time lapse, I will be intel limited, but it will allow me to remove 2 segments. So I will get rid of this intel marker after I do this naval search. And I don't really want to engage with this cruiser. They could get a lucky shot, could get any number of bad things could happen. So I want to keep my trajectory going and go after the convoys, which is my main mission. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this is 11. So we've got a naval search with 19. The British are, of course, rolling for interruption still because they still have that intel marker. That is going to get them absolutely nothing. So now we are rolling out here on this far table for naval search. We get a 6, which is an early or late result. So we punch a hole there, and then we will remove trajectories from this side since that's the direction they're going, and then we'll time lapse. Because we have an intel marker, we're intel limited. So if you look over here, that means that we are only able to we're only able to remove two segments, the Bismarck being medium speed. But what that does is it does allow us to remove those two segments, which also has the effect of getting rid of the intel marker, and should make things a little bit easier for us. Now, naval search, unlike engage, is a seize initiative attempt. So right now the British need to roll a 9 in order to seize initiative, which they do not do, but we will move their tally marker up by 1. So the Germans on their turn are going to extend their... Actually, it's an interesting question. I wonder if I think I should maybe go after this convoy at this point, because they are a little bit closer to completing, and I can go after an internal sort of segment here. So let me just this one should be 7 segments. That's 7 segments. And I'm going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 13. So I can afford to put down 2 segments and stay in. So I am going to, just to avoid the possibility of... Actually, that doesn't make any sense. I'm going to go ahead and put a trajectory like this. So I'm going to steam for this Gibraltar convoy, and we're going to go after it. So we have 7, they have 7, so we are on the 14 column of this convoy, and we are not rolling for interrupt this time because we got rid of that intel marker. So with an 8, we get a shadow result, which means that I'm allowed to reduce this convoy to just 3 segments. We'll keep it at those 3 segments. I get to time lapse, so I'm removing 3 because my medium speed allows me to remove 3. And then we are going to... The British are going to attempt to seize initiative. And they will do exactly that. So the British seize initiative. So we are rolling on the British action table. That top row again. And on a 2, we get an A result. Once again, I have forgotten to roll for the weather. The weather stays good. So with an A result, which is an airstrike, the British do not have an airbase within 2 hexes. This is the closest one, and it is the Bismarck is too far away. So what it changes into is an intercept result. Now what I got to do is I got to roll on a table. This is the selection table you roll when you get an X result here. I get a slightly different result from an A result. So I'm rolling on, and I'm going to look at a table that's in the. Hang on, I'm going to re-roll that so I get a good spin on it. So I'm checking a table that is inside of the solo scenario booklet, and for 3. I select a task force nearest a German task force, and it must have a carrier in it. So unfortunately for us, that is going to be this bad boy here. Wow, that's not probably not what we wanted. So this task force is going to make an attempt to bring this to battle. So the first thing they're going to do is lay down a trajectory, take a trajectory action to lay down a trajectory. To intercept the Germans in this hex right there. So they have 5, we have 4, so they're going to be performing a naval, then they're going to perform a naval search, and they'll be doing that on this 9 column. So check that out. And they get an 8, which is a contact result and a shadow result. So first things first is we attach a contact result. I never really know whether I'm supposed to use the British contact or the German contact markers. I actually think it makes more sense to use the German, because then I know that they are attached to the German trajectory in here. And then they are going to reduce this to 3 segments. I think I'm going to reduce it by that one. just because that way, if I do another naval search and I punch a hole, I have a possibility. So the contact marker, however, is going to be certainly going to be a bit of a problem for me. And then they are going to time lapse. Now, let me just make sure. So the King George and the Victorious are both medium over here. So they will be able to reduce their trajectory by 3. And then the Germans will attempt to seize initiative. And the Germans seize the initiative right back. So yeah, we have a real seesaw battle going on here between the British and the Germans. And with that, I think I'm going to pause this first video. Thanks for sticking around to the end of this video playthrough of GMT Games Atlantic Chase, the Bismarck scenario. Hope you're enjoying the video, the playthroughs, the channel. Please leave comments with suggestions on things like games that you'd love to see come to Agility Snips Gaming Table, or improvements that can be made to the channel. But we will see you in the next video on Agility Snips Gaming Table.